know, this was a dream for a lot of people not that long ago. And now we're here, and everyone just is kind of feeling kind of crummy. There's two reasons. One reason, most people own a lot of altcoins, not a lot of Bitcoin, because they think that altcoins are what's going to make them rich, when in reality, altcoins just keep on bleeding back to Bitcoin, right? So that's the reason number one, is while Bitcoin is at all-time highs, basically, or has been for a while, the altcoin market is not. I mean, hell, Ethereum is at 2,600. It hasn't even seen a new all-time high this cycle yet, and I hope it does, but it hasn't yet. And a lot of altcoins also haven't seen new all-time highs. And I think that's the reason why sentiment is so bad, is that, you know, a lot of people actually hold majority altcoins rather than a majority Bitcoin. Even though I've tried to preach the good word on Bitcoin dominance for 3.5 years, obviously not everyone cares. I also didn't realize, I'm not really that in tune with the meme coin market, but I was looking at some of the ones we were following earlier. I was realizing a lot of them are actually down like 80% in like a month. So that might also sort of justify some of the sentiment. What's absolutely insane to me though, right, is that like meme coins are down 80% in like a month. A lot of them are, right? I know some of you guys are like, why meme coins? I'm not talking about yours. I'm talking about everyone else's. A lot of them are actually down a lot in a really short period of time. And what's crazy about that is that Bitcoin is still up here, you know? I mean, and the bull market support band is here. I mean, if we go below the bull market support band, right, what happens to those? Again, hopefully we don't. Hopefully we hold it as support, and hopefully the cycle continues as normal. And we get a right translated cycle, right? I think that would be kind of the ideal scenario. But I would be lying to suggest that there's not a part of me that wonders if all this meme coin mania is either going to lead to a left translated cycle or the fear of a left translated cycle, where like we lose the bull market support band and everyone thinks the bull market's over, and maybe it's not, right? Maybe it's just going back down to test the high from 2024, which is exactly what it did in 2017. You know, I mean, that's what it did. It had a drop in early 2017 where it tested the high from the prior year, and that hasn't happened yet. So I could see something like that happening, where it feels like the cycle's over, but then it's not. And I would say as long as Bitcoin's above the 2024 high, I'm not really that concerned about it, you know, about sort of the other cycle theories. But if it goes below that, I would start to express a little bit more caution on that view. So, you know, I think the first thing to note is that this is sort of the first line of defense for the bulls, right? That bull market support band, and it's right around 90K. So if Bitcoin goes to 90K, that's going to be the big level to hold. If it goes below that, still doesn't mean things are over. I mean, we actually went below that in Q3 of 2023 and Q3 of 2024, and we still were able to get back above it. I'm just saying that, like, that's going to be your first area. Now, you know, if you're sitting here, like, you know, ready to buy Bitcoin the minute it hits that level, there's no guarantee that it does. I mean, in January 2024, you can see that we actually didn't ever quite hit it. We came pretty close. I'm sure some people were waiting for it, and then we eventually just went up. Okay, so you do have to remember that it's not like there's guarantee here. The point is that there's not really a way to know what the market's going to do. It's just how do you maximize your risk-adjusted returns? And you know, for the last 3.5 years, we'll stick with Bitcoin because dominance is going to go higher. And I do recognize that all Bitcoin pairs will likely go up at some point in 2025, especially if the Federal Reserve is quantitative tightening. But I also think there's this like desperation by a lot of people that I keep seeing this vibe in the comment section where people are just like, just give me an alt season so they can drop their sell off their altcoins to become Bitcoin maxis. And I've seen that sentiment before. So I would say one of two things.
Engine screaming.
One option is you don't get alt season until those people actually capitulate their alts because they just give up on them. And then when they capitulate, then you get alt season. After the people that keep waiting for it capitulate. The other thing is that if you do get alt season, a lot of the people that would have hoped to have benefited from it would probably sell really early on in alt season, right? They would probably sell within the first couple of weeks and it could go on for another 2 months. So, you know, I just see that sentiment everywhere where like everyone's just like really praying for alt season and they're hoping Satoshi allows them to have alt season so they can just, you know, do away with their old ways, sell their altcoins, go back to Bitcoin and just live a simpler life, you know, being a Bitcoin maxi. Like I feel like I see that sentiment a lot of places, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this video probably have felt that feeling at some point, especially if you're altcoin heavy. But remember that a lot of times in post-halving years, at least in 2021 and 2017, alt season occurred after that sentiment just kind of died. Like when basically everyone loses hope, right? When everyone loses hope that it'll ever happen is normally when it happens. And if you get a left translated cycle, I suppose it doesn't have to happen. But even in a left translated cycle, I could see, a possibility where it could still happen. But in the short term, it still seems like Bitcoin, relative to alts, has a lot going for it. I could see that narrative starting to shift, but I mean, currently the ETF flows for Bitcoin and not for altcoins, except for Ethereum, but those have been relatively lackluster. I also think that a lot of people are just growing tired of all the grifts in the meme coin market, and they're also growing tired of waiting for their, quote unquote utility alt to pump. It's just easy to just go back to Bitcoin and just kind of stick with that and not worry so much. But I do think that a lot of this kind of explains some of the sentiment right now. A lot of people are down on alts in the last few weeks, few months. The alt season they were promised hasn't actually happened. And I just go back to this idea of maybe what needs to happen is what people don't want to happen, and again, I'm stating a fact. I'm not stating something. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not saying anything about your altcoin. I'm just stating a fact, okay? And it is a fact that the 2017 alt season did not occur until all Bitcoin pairs went to the range lows. And in 2021, it is a fact that alt season did not occur until all Bitcoin pairs actually went below the range lows, right? So this was an alt season here, and this was an alt season. And you'll notice that neither of them occurred until they were at the range lows. And I'm baffled as you guys are, right? I mean, in 2022, if you had said by 2025, all Bitcoin pairs would still not be at the range lows, I'd be kind of surprised. I think it has been right, directionally, being directionally correct is important, right? They have continued to bleed, but they're also taking a lot longer than I thought. And it's one of those things where the longer it takes, it's easy to lose faith in a narrative, right? It's so easy to lose faith in a narrative if you've been calling for it forever. And I've been calling for all Bitcoin pairs to go to 0.25 right here since since basically right here in early 2022. I sold all my altcoins for Bitcoin in February of 2022, and I've been calling for them to go to 0.25 ever since, with occasional videos about the altcoin reckoning, right? And it's easy to lose faith in these narratives, right? Just like it was at one point, it was easy to lose faith that ETH Bitcoin would ever get this capitulation, which I thought would eventually happen, and I said would likely potentially culminate around the time that the supply of ETH reaches the pre-merge supply, which is currently where that wick is right there. I also know that while it has been easy to lose patience on a lot of things, even Bitcoin dominance once upon a time this cycle. Remember when I said that dominance would go to 60%? And a lot of people didn't think it would happen, and now it's just, now it's here at 60%, and now we start to wonder, the questions are starting to come in. What if it goes higher, right? What if this is, what if it's going to go up to the 786 bit, right, all the way up to 66%? And I know it's easy to seem well, you're saying this time is different and whatnot, and to say, well, it's the post-halving years when the alt season normally occurs, but I get that, right? I do. But you could also still argue that we're in this phase of the cycle because quantitative tightening never actually ended, right? It never actually ended, and that's what marked from that first top by dominance back in the 2019 cycle. And until QT ends, how do we know that Bitcoin dominance will just eventually go higher? Especially considering that all Bitcoin pairs were at the range lows in November of a post-halving year, 2017, right? So I do think there's a lot of things to consider here.